Islam, Shalom, I.S.L.A.M, Osio, Hola, Aloha, Bonjour. This is your brother Zach Bey, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live and in full effect. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I'm dropping new content. Leave a comment down below and interact with my content. I really appreciate your viewership. Today, I really want to jump back into the topic of reparations. Since the presidential elections are currently up and running, they're out campaigning and stuff like that. There's a lot of talk about the two major parties, Republican and Democrat, who's supporting who, the migrant crisis, who's really backing these people. But I believe, we should stop backing both of these parties and potentially start our own party. And of course, we're also celebrating Ramadan. So Ramadan Mubarak for everybody who's celebrating, peace and love. And all honors to all the noble prophets. That's Noble Drew Ali, Yahshua the Christ, also known as Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon him, Buddha, and Confucius. You know what I'm saying? We need all those energies out here. So on the topic of reparations, I want to pose a question, and I would like maybe some feedback from other like minds, or just to start a conversation by anybody who might be opposed. But how can we, the descendants of American chattel slavery, receive reparations without us having to pay for our own restitution? All right, that's the question I want to pose to you, because we know if we were to receive some type of cash payment, reparations, it will most likely be from maybe a government source, whether statewide or federally. And if it's coming from government-backed sources, most likely it's funded by taxpayer revenue. And if all of us are paying taxes, then therefore we are funding our own restitution and reparations. You know what I'm saying? So it's coming out of our pockets to pay us again. That just can't happen, because we can't be held responsible or liable for paying our own restitution for our reparations. And the way that they're giving funds to Israel and Ukraine and other foreign nations that are being backed, the conflict going over in Gaza that's not supported by any righteous regime. All right. But I just want to pose some solutions on how we could potentially get the ball rolling on what to demand for reparations and how we can demand it. I'm not an economist. I don't have all the answers. All right. Like that famous Ye quote, Ye West quote, you don't have all the answers, Sway. I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to know all the answers, but what I do have is a critically thinking mind, and I have a vision of where I want to see, of how I want to see my people and my nation prosper, in the glory of the Most High. So that's what motivates me. But these are a few of the ideas and the thoughts I had, how we can get the ball rolling on reparations that we will not be forced to fund ourselves. All right. Firstly, I want to start off with land. Cash, cash payments is definitely important, but it's secondary. It's not even first. It might not even be second. But cash payments, land and cash are some of the main things. But I want to start off with land. All right, because if they keep telling us no for the cash, we need to aim higher. So if we aim and ask for land, forget cash. If we aim for land, they might backtrack and try to offer cash because land is more valuable. You get what I'm saying? It's our ancestors, our ancestral lands. So I want to start off with land. All right. So if the government or any entity claims that there's not enough land to give out to the American descendants of slaves, that whole 40 acres and a mule promise, all right. So each family received 40 acres and a mule. Now, that's what we should get. And even if it wasn't each family, each individual person who served during that time, and that was during the American Civil War. All right, so that was alleged battle decree, like a field decree, in order to raise the morale of the troops and to get greater support from the Niji, from the indigenous people, the American Moors, the American Indians, who fought on the side of the revolution. I mean, who fought on the side of course, the revolution, but of course, the Civil War in the Union side, against others who fought on the side of the Confederacies. All right, so our people fought on both sides, just like their people fought on both sides. But I want to start off with land. So if each person was promised 40 acres and a mule, and lands were stolen and or lost or taken through eminent domain. All right, so we can start there. The lands that were taken from our people, we can chart that square acreage and mileage. All right, so the communities that were destroyed via eminent domain to create the interstate highways. All right, we can look at old maps and triangulate that square mileage and acreage of those of that land and property that was lost and stolen. All right. Of course, we know plenty of places, so-called Negro Wall Streets and Negro townships, were burned during like the Red Summer, when there was a lot of so-called race riots, and many were also flooded. All right, so there were places and towns that were completely controlled and operated by our people. All right, the American Indians, the Moors of America, the indigenous people, so-called Negroes, black colors. These cities and townships were independent, up and thriving, and they were systematically destroyed via fire or flooding, or the people were ran out of town by mobs. So we can triangulate. All right, these are the facts and figures, actual numbers. We can triangulate the mileage, the square mileage, and the acreage of that property that was taken in those towns and townships that were destroyed, and we can calculate that into how much is owed to us now. All right, so that's what I want to bring to the forefront: things that happened to us in the past that can be remedied via the government or other organizations that might pretend or feign like they don't have the funding or the resources to actually make substantial physical and beneficial reparations for us. All right, so this is work that we can do, put our feet to the ground, and actually, get some wheels turning. All right, so calculating the acreage and the square mileage of these townships that were lost, in order for us to be regained that now, even if they were, if lands were given to us via the national parks. All right, because those technically should be our lands. Those lands are kept in trust for the indigenous people, but they were changed into national parks. So, lands taken through eminent domain, a lot of the red line properties. We can start there, start at land. All right. Number 2, cash payments. All right. Now I'm going to go to cash. We don't want to be held accountable to pay our own restitution via cash if it's going to be levied through taxes. All right. So they can tax any average citizen of this nation, foreign or otherwise, or domestic, to levy taxes to pay for government, spending and things of that nature. So if we're being taxed and they also choose to pay us cash reparations, we could technically, when I say they, I mean the government, we would technically be paying our own reparations because we were taxed, due to taxation. So in order to remedy that, there could be a tax levied against all others who are not descendants of American chattel slavery. All right. So therefore, anybody who's coming into this nation and anybody who's currently in this nation who is not a descendant of American chattel slavery has to pay reparations to us, because for one, they're on our land and we fought and bled and died for the benefits that they are receiving today, and others whose ancestors firsthand, secondhand, or third hand benefited from American chattel slavery, all the way from back then, from antiquity all the way to this day and age. All right, it's a way to hold them accountable and for us not to be held liable. All right, so we can start off with the freedmen's bank accounts. All right, so if anybody knows, there was a video I made a while ago about the freedmen's banks and how there was a balance left in there for these freedmen banks. And even Frederick Douglass used his own capital to pretty much revive the freedmen's bank. But the freedmen's bank was eventually closed due to a few reasons, but I'm gonna mostly attribute the closing to improper management of the funds by like the bookkeepers and the people who were supposed to be managing this trust, the funds for that trust. So our people, after the American Civil War, placed money into these bank accounts. All right, gold most likely, into these bank accounts, and this entire bank was pretty much shut down. It was closed. Those accounts were most likely never paid out. There was a small number of accounts that were actually like cashed out and paid out to the people who opened the accounts, or the descendants of the people who opened those accounts. All right, so there's technically a accumulative interest on those funds that was in that bank account, but it seems like they somehow disappeared, but they didn't. Those funds should definitely be accounted for, and those funds should be returned to the descendants of the people who deposited those funds, and also go into a fund that should jumpstart the cash payments for cash reparations for American chattel slavery. All right, the balance on these accounts can be adjusted for interest and inflation in today's current market. So interest from the 1800s all the way to today's date, and adjusted for inflation also. So that is a number that can actually be researched, studied, and an actual tangible figure can be established through that as a baseline. All right, I'm not saying that's all that we're owed, but that's a place to start as a baseline for us to start to receive in cash payments for American chattel slavery due to reparations that we aren't paying out of our own pockets due to taxation. All right, number three on the list. All right, I don't want to make this video too long, so number 3 is going to be the last one on this list. Non-tax obligations for our people. All right, for American Moors, American Indians, so-called Negroes, black coloreds. All right, like I said, we can't be held liable to pay our own reparations levied through taxation. All right, that should be anybody and everybody else should have a tax on them to pay for reparations for American chattel slavery. All right, to the descendants. So easy, anybody who was identified as Negro, black, colored, ancestrally in America should have a non-tax obligation status. All right, that's on the record, that's verified. not just, people knowing individual law, but it should be, pardon me, it should be commonplace that our people have a non-tax obligation status. And that's through state taxation and federal taxation, all right? We should not be held liable to pay for any services, for one, that go on this land, because the land originally belonged to us. And of course, taxation, um, to potentially pay reparations for American chattel slavery. All right, this is a way that money will not be taken from our pockets to fund us; it will only be added to us. You know what I'm saying? Um, and for anybody who thinks like the whole land allotment thing, land pad thing won't work, think about the Amish. All right. Anybody who might think that the non-tax obligation status is just something that's just not feasible, something that won't work, think about the gaming casinos given to the Native Americans. All right. Those casinos are non-taxed, and they make millions, billions, millions, or billions of dollars in revenue, and it's not taxed, non-taxed. All right, so we don't even get a fraction of any of that revenue at all. But for anybody who might think land is just out of the question, think about the Amish. Anybody who thinks non-tax obligation is completely out of the question, think of the gaming casinos. These things can be done. And of course, for the Freedmen's Bank accounts, those balances are still on the books, and any economist, any mathematician can easily do the calculations to adjust for inflation and interest from the 1800s all the way to today's date and calculate that figure. I'm guessing that figure won't be anywhere close to that $14 trillion figure that was stated by a few other scholars, but it's something that can get the ball rolling. All right. So I really wanted to bring this to your attention and have this conversation with you, family. Um, yeah, pretty much that's it. I would love to hear from you. Any comments, any suggestions, um, any points that I might have missed. I love to hear from you. Once again, this is your brother Zach Bey, Indigenous American Moore. Wado, peace.